guys, it's Emma Bigling with TYT Politics. Hope everyone is having a great day. I'm back at my place and doing some videos for you guys. I'm in a chippy mood peppy chipper move. There you go, Emma. There you go, you got it there. Because I'm really excited about the healthcare implications of the failure of Trump Care. This opens the doors for progressives to push past the Affordable Care Act, past Obamacare, and push for something that covers more people. And Bernie Sanders is leading that fight. In 2016, Gallup found that 58% of adults, regardless of party, all adults, favored the idea of replacing Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, with insurance for all Americans. And that's Gallup, probably the most respected polling organization in the country. That's phenomenal, but of course, the politicians don't truly represent the people, so they weren't going to actually introduce that or pass that. Trump certainly doesn't favor it, despite saying everyone was going to have the best coverage. It was going to be tremendous during the election. But Bernie Sanders and progressives are actually introducing it, and it may have momentum behind it this time. This is what Bernie said on Chris Hayes on Friday. We have got to have the guts to take on the insurance companies and the drug companies and move forward towards Medicare for All single payer program, he said on Chris Hayes. And I'll be introducing legislation shortly to do that. Great. So now Bernie has the political capital to actually make something happen and make some headway in that area, and he's not alone. He also said this at a rally in Vermont to, according to a local Vermont paper, thunderous applause. They describe, less than 24 hours after the disintegration of a Republican effort to repeal and replace the Federal Affordable Care Act, Senator Bernie Sanders told constituents at a town hall meeting in Hardwick Saturday that he will introduce a single-payer health care bill in Congress within a couple of weeks. Boom. The announcement drew thunderous applause from the approximately 1,000 people in Hazen Union High School gymnasium, where Sanders shared the stage with Senator Patrick Leahy and Representative Peter Welch. Leahy is the other senator from Vermont, also a Democrat, and Peter Welch is the singular member of the House of Representatives from Vermont and the successor to Bernie Sanders when he moved to the Senate from the House. He also endorsed Bernie in the primary. Great guy. Side note, could you imagine being the other senator from Vermont? No one cares. Like, only people would care about Bernie Sanders. No one cares about... I'm so sorry, Pat Leahy, but, you gotta, it must suck living in that shadow. Oy. But back in 2011, Bernie actually did introduce a single-payer bill. Of course, it did not pass. It was defeated. It was co-sponsored with Jim McDermott, a representative from Washington's 7th District, and it did die before the vote. So again, we can't really gauge who voted for it and who didn't, which would have been better. I do believe that I'm almost positive that it died before the vote. But recently, Bernie isn't the only Democrat to push for Medicare for All. Representative John Conyers, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, of Michigan's 13th District pushed it last month. And Keith Ellison just recently championed this bill at a rally, saying, "Don't be just satisfied with defeating Trump Care. Set your sights on creating real Medicare for all." Keith Ellison told a cheering crowd of hundreds of activists. Ellison is a co-sponsor of this Medicare for All bill in the House. So Bernie has yet to introduce it in the Senate, but it has been introduced in the House, and it was introduced last year. Some interesting revelations about who co-sponsored that bill. The bill currently has 72 co-sponsors, and there are some high-profile names on that bill, and there's one notable name that is missing that I think is very interesting. Elijah Cummings of Maryland co-sponsors, Keith Ellison, obviously of Minnesota, Raul Grijalva of Arizona, who was one of the most vocal people in Congress about the Dakota Access Pipeline, and he's a strong progressive from Arizona. John Lewis, the civil rights leader, famous Hillary Clinton supporter, but you know what? Love you, John Lewis. Thanks for fighting the good fight here. Peter Welch, as I mentioned earlier, the singular congressman from Vermont. Emmanuel Cleaver of Missouri, who Jordan and I interviewed actually at one of the debates. And Ro Khanna, who is an up-and-coming progressive that Nomi interviewed on this channel. We just uploaded part 2 of that interview. Go check that out, by the way. So a really strong progressive who actually said this and was quoted as saying this. As I pointed out in the Budget Committee hearing on Trump Care a few weeks ago, Donald Trump supported a single-payer system modeled after Canada in 2000 in his book, The America We Deserve. He knows that is the only system that will fulfill his promise of more benefits, more coverage, and less costs. We should have every Democrat quoting Trump on a single-payer system as a mantra and support Senator Sanders and Congressman Welch in their vision for Medicare for all, or at least a public option. Senator Sanders is the leader of the Democratic Party currently in offering a conviction-based affirmative vision. We should follow his direction. Ro Khanna, whoo, baby. Yeah, I'm a big fan of you out of California. Go check out his interview with Nomi and see what you feel about him. He's taking on Silicon Valley while living in Silicon Valley. He's taking on those special interests, unlike Mike Honda, who he was going up against. So, really big fan of Ro Khanna, really love the rhetoric, and also really love his co-sponsoring of this bill. If you guys noticed, I left out a very notable name in the House who hasn't co-sponsored this bill. Tulsi Gabbard. Where are you? You know, Tulsi Gabbard has a lot of conservative tendencies, and this is pretty troubling. Why is she not one of the 72 members of the House to co-sponsor this bill? I find it quite curious. Nothing is by accident. I don't understand. I hope that she joins on board. But the reaction I'm getting on Twitter, just to editorialize, because I do think I have a great progressive following, or a diverse progressive following of people with different opinions, but I said, why isn't she one of the 72 members of the House? That's not an insignificant number, by the way, all Democrats, to co-sponsor this bill. If Elizabeth Warren doesn't join Bernie Sanders on this bill, I will be extremely surprised. But it's always just excuses. It's excuse after excuse for Tulsi Gabbard, and if Elizabeth Warren did this, the progressive movement would literally crucify her. Yet Elizabeth Warren has the most progressive, most liberal, by many metrics, voting records in the entire Senate. So I'm just trying to push back against this narrative, because yes, we can be upset about the primary and dapple and the rhetoric from Warren, but a lot of what really matters is sponsoring legislation and pushing it forward with your political capital. Why isn't Tulsi Gabbard using her political capital to push this forward? And it's not like this was just introduced last year. John Conyers, the same representative, introduced this in the last Congress. This is troubling, guys, about this specific congresswoman. I'm a fan of her. I've interviewed her on many issues. I think she's fantastic. But this isn't good. And knowing it won't pass doesn't matter. Bernie Sanders introduced it in 2011 knowing it wouldn't pass. Just because you think it doesn't pass, it won't pass, doesn't mean you fight. Don't fight. You have to fight, always. Always fight. And you know what? This is also why I say it's extremely dangerous to constantly say that the Democratic Party is the same as the Republican Party. 72 Democrats co-sponsoring this legislation in the House. If Trump feels enough political heat, maybe we can get it to pass. But if not, it lays the groundwork for the next Democratic president. It becomes the standard for the Democratic Party. Medicare for all. That's the new standard. And it's because of it's primarily because of Bernie Sanders. It's one man. And then all of these people have followed to their credit. So this is great news. But where are you, Tulsi Gabbard? We'll see what Democrats join Bernie Sanders when he introduces this in a few weeks in the Senate. And, then we'll go from there. But right now the writing's on the wall in the House, and we can clearly see, Keith Ellison's really leading this fight as well, as opposed to John Conyers. So good for them. And this is good news today. Let's go.